You've been taking zinc. Maybe you read that it supports testosterone. Maybe your doctor mentioned it, or you saw it in a Men's Health article. You added it to your morning routine, gave it a few weeks, maybe a few months. And here's the thing nobody warned you about. That zinc you've been taking every single day, the zinc you thought was helping you, may be quietly creating a deficiency in another mineral so critical to your cardiovascular system, your nerve function, and your energy levels, that some researchers now link it directly to the same symptoms you were trying to fix in the first place: low energy, poor circulation, fatigue that doesn't respond to sleep. I'm Dr. Steven, and I've spent years working with men over 50 navigating the complicated landscape of hormone health, vascular function, and the way nutrients interact inside an aging body. And this particular interaction, zinc and copper, is one of the most misunderstood and most consequential things I see in my practice. Most men don't hear about it until damage has already been done. So today I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening inside your body when you take zinc without its counterpart nutrient. Why the symptoms of this imbalance look almost identical to the problems you were trying to solve, and what the correct protocol looks like for men over 50 who want the real benefits of zinc without the hidden cost. Stay with me through all of this, because the piece I'm saving for the second half of this video, the part about how this imbalance specifically affects male vascular function after 50, that's the part that changes how you think about every supplement you're currently taking. Let's start with the biology, because once you understand the mechanism, everything else clicks into place. Zinc and copper are both trace minerals. They're both essential. Your body cannot make them. You have to get them from food or supplementation. And here is the critical detail that most supplement labels never mention. These two minerals compete for the exact same absorption pathway in your small intestine. Think of it like two cars trying to merge into the same lane at the same time. One of them has to give way. And when you flood your system with zinc, which is what most men's supplements do, zinc wins that competition almost every single time. The copper gets pushed aside. It passes through without being absorbed. And day after day, week after week, your copper levels drop. This is not a rare reaction. This is not a sensitivity. This is straightforward competitive absorption that has been documented in clinical literature for decades. And yet men are still buying zinc supplements, taking them daily without any copper counterbalance, and wondering why they feel worse 6 months in than they did when they started. Here's what's important for you to understand. The recommended dietary intake of zinc for adult men is around 11 milligrams per day. Most zinc supplements, especially the ones marketed specifically for men's health, contain 25 milligrams, 50 milligrams, sometimes even more. That's 2 to 4 times the daily requirement. And at those doses, the depletion of copper is not a possibility. It's a certainty. Now let me tell you what copper actually does in your body, because this is where it gets important. Copper is a cofactor for an enzyme called ceruloplasmin. Ceruloplasmin is responsible for how your body processes and transports iron in the blood. When copper drops, ceruloplasmin activity drops, and iron starts to accumulate in your tissues rather than being properly utilized. Excess iron in tissue generates something called oxidative stress. And oxidative stress in the lining of your blood vessels triggers inflammation. Does that sound familiar? Chronic low-grade vascular inflammation is exactly what drives the narrowing of arteries that reduces blood flow in men over 50. It's exactly what compromises nitric oxide production. And it's exactly what shows up clinically as fatigue, reduced stamina, slower recovery, and for many men, declining erectile function. You took zinc to support testosterone and circulation. The zinc depleted your copper. The copper deficiency compromised your iron metabolism. The disrupted iron metabolism created oxidative stress in your blood vessels. And now you have the very circulatory problems you were trying to prevent. That spiral is real, and it happens silently. But there's more. Copper is also essential for a compound called superoxide dismutase, which is one of your body's primary internal antioxidant systems. Without adequate copper, that system degrades. Your oxidative burden increases. Your cells age faster. Your mitochondria, the energy factories inside every cell, become less efficient. And then there's the neurological dimension, which most men never hear about. Copper plays a critical role in the synthesis of myelin, the protective sheath around your nerve fibers. When copper is chronically low, nerve conduction slows. Men in my practice who've been running a zinc-induced copper deficiency for a year or more sometimes describe symptoms that sound neurological. Tingling in the hands or feet, a subtle but persistent brain fog, coordination that doesn't feel quite right. These symptoms are commonly misattributed to aging or stress. The actual cause is copper deficiency driven by excessive zinc supplementation. Now here's the part I want you to pay very close attention to, because this is where the clinical picture gets genuinely alarming for men over 50 specifically. At 50, 60, 70 years old, your body's ability to buffer nutritional imbalances is significantly reduced compared to your 30s. A 25-year-old who takes too much zinc for a few months will likely self-correct. His gut absorption adapts. His kidneys compensate. His reserves fill in the gaps. But after 50, those buffering systems are less responsive. The depletion happens faster. The symptoms emerge sooner. And the recovery, once you correct the deficiency, takes longer. This is why the same zinc supplement that a 35-year-old takes without issue can create measurable copper deficiency in a 60-year-old within 8 to 12 weeks. Same dose, completely different physiological result. And there's a second layer to this that's specific to vascular health in older men. After 50, your endothelial cells, the cells lining your blood vessels, already have reduced capacity to produce nitric oxide. That reduction is a normal part of aging. It's driven by lower levels of a compound called ENOS, endothelial nitric oxide synthase. Copper is a cofactor for the enzymes that protect endothelial cells from oxidative damage. When copper drops, those endothelial cells take on more oxidative stress. ENOS activity drops further, and nitric oxide production falls even lower than baseline aging would predict. That means a man over 50 taking high-dose zinc without copper may be accelerating the vascular decline he is trying to prevent by a margin that is clinically significant. Not marginal, significant. So how do you know if this is already happening to you? What are the signs of zinc-induced copper deficiency in a man over 50? The first thing most men notice is fatigue that doesn't match their sleep or activity level. You're sleeping 7 or 8 hours. You're not overtraining. But you wake up tired. You hit a wall in the early afternoon that coffee doesn't fix. Your energy feels inconsistent in a way that's difficult to explain. That's often the first signal. The second is that your workout recovery slows down. You used to bounce back in a day or two. Now, the soreness lingers. The motivation to train the next session isn't there. You feel like your body isn't repairing properly because at the cellular level it isn't. Without adequate copper, mitochondrial function in your muscle tissue degrades. Recovery slows. Third, and this is the one that brings a lot of men into my practice with questions, your immune system starts behaving erratically. You catch colds more easily than you used to, or a cold that would have cleared in a week now lingers for 2 or 3. Copper is essential for the development and function of white blood cells. When it drops, immune surveillance weakens. Fourth is the one I mentioned earlier. Neurological symptoms, subtle tingling, brain fog that wasn't there before, a feeling of heaviness or imprecision in your movements. These symptoms are easy to dismiss or attribute to general aging, but in the context of high-dose zinc supplementation, they deserve a serious look. And fifth, circulation, cold hands and feet. The kind of vascular sluggishness that makes you feel like blood isn't reaching the periphery the way it should. That's the oxidative vascular damage pathway I described earlier. It shows up in the extremities first, but the same process is affecting every blood vessel in your body. Now, before I give you the corrective protocol, I want to address something that comes up every time I discuss this topic, because I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, well, I've been taking zinc for years and I feel fine. Or my doctor told me to take zinc and never mentioned copper. Or I've seen zinc in every men's multivitamin on the shelf, so how dangerous can it really be? These are fair questions. Let me answer them directly. First, the fact that you feel fine right now does not mean a deficiency isn't developing. Copper depletion is cumulative and often asymptomatic for months before clinical symptoms appear. The absence of obvious symptoms is not evidence of adequate copper levels. A simple blood test measuring serum copper and ceruloplasmin will tell you far more than how you feel. Second, your doctor likely didn't mention copper because the zinc-copper interaction, while well documented in the scientific literature, is not a prominent part of most standard medical training. That's not a criticism of your physician. It's a gap in how nutritional biochemistry is typically taught in clinical education. Third, yes, many men's multivitamins contain zinc, but the well-formulated ones include copper as well, typically at a ratio of around 8 to 10 milligrams of zinc for every 1 milligram of copper. That ratio is protective. The problem is isolated zinc supplements, the kind sold specifically for immune support or testosterone health, that contain high zinc doses with no copper whatsoever. So here is what the correct approach looks like. This is the protocol I use in my practice for men over 50 who want the genuine benefits of zinc without compromising their copper status. Step 1. If you are currently taking isolated zinc at doses above 15 milligrams per day, stop. Do not just add copper on top of what you're doing. Reassess your total zinc intake first. Look at everything. Your standalone supplement, your multivitamin, any protein powder or meal replacement you use. Many of these contain zinc. You may already be at or above your daily requirement from food and your multivitamin alone, which means your standalone zinc supplement is pure excess. Step 2. Get your labs. A serum copper test and a ceruloplasmin test are both inexpensive and accessible through any standard blood panel. Your serum copper should ideally sit between 70 and 140 micrograms per deciliter. Ceruloplasmin should be between 20 and 35 milligrams per deciliter. If your numbers are below those ranges, you already have the deficiency, and dietary correction alone will not be fast enough. You'll need supervised supplementation to restore adequate levels. Step 3. If you genuinely need zinc supplementation because your diet is low in zinc-rich foods like oysters, beef, pumpkin seeds, or lentils, supplement at a dose of no more than 15 milligrams per day. And for every 8 to 10 milligrams of supplemental zinc, include 1 milligram of supplemental copper. That ratio is what maintains balance over time. Step 4. Build copper into your diet proactively. The richest dietary sources of copper are things like beef liver, which is extraordinarily dense in this nutrient, shellfish, especially oysters and crab, dark chocolate, cashews, sunflower seeds, and leafy greens like spinach and kale. If you're eating a varied whole food diet, you may not need supplemental copper at all as long as your zinc intake is reasonable. Step 5. The timing matters. If you are taking both zinc and copper as supplements, do not take them at the same time. Remember that competitive absorption pathway. Take your zinc in the morning and your copper in the evening with a meal. Separating them by several hours dramatically improves the absorption of both. Now here's the accelerator that most men miss entirely. And this is the part I want you to carry out of this video. Correcting the zinc-copper ratio does something beyond just eliminating the deficiency symptoms I described. In men over 50, restoring adequate copper status specifically improves the function of an enzyme called lysyl oxidase, which is responsible for the cross-linking of collagen and elastin in your blood vessel walls. Healthy elastic vessel walls dilate more effectively in response to nitric oxide. They respond faster, they hold pressure better. And in the context of circulation and vascular function, men who restore their copper levels after a period of deficiency often report improvements that feel like more than just symptom resolution. They feel like an upgrade, warmer extremities, better sustained energy, improved physical response during exercise and intimacy. That is not a coincidence. That is lysyl oxidase activity, restoring vascular elasticity in tissue that had been growing progressively stiffer under the burden of copper deficiency. The men in my practice who make this correction and give it 60 to 90 days consistently come back and say the same thing. They tell me they assumed those changes were just aging. They assumed the fatigue, the slower circulation, the reduced stamina was simply what 55 or 65 felt like. And they were wrong. What they were feeling was a correctable nutritional imbalance masquerading as age. Let me leave you with this. The supplement industry is very good at selling you individual nutrients and very poor at explaining how those nutrients interact. Zinc is a legitimate, beneficial mineral. It does support immune function, testosterone production, wound healing, and cellular repair. None of that is false. But the story of zinc in isolation, without copper, without context, without the ratio that maintains balance in an aging body, that's an incomplete story. And incomplete stories in health have consequences. You've spent decades building this body. You deserve complete information about what you're putting into it. If you have been taking zinc for more than 3 months at doses above 15 milligrams per day without any copper supplementation, please get your labs done. It costs almost nothing. It takes one blood draw. And the information you get back could explain symptoms you've been attributing to aging for months or years. Drop a comment below with the words, "Checking my levels." That simple commitment, made publicly, even anonymously, tells your brain that this matters, that you're taking it seriously. And if you have questions about your specific situation, about your current supplement stack, about how to read your lab results, drop those questions below as well. I read every single comment and I respond to as many as I can. If this video gave you something genuinely useful, something that shifts how you think about the nutrients you're taking every day, please share it. Not for the algorithm, for the man in your life who is taking zinc right now and has no idea this interaction exists. That share might be the thing that redirects him before the deficiency takes hold. And if you want to go deeper on this, my next video breaks down the 5 most common nutrient interactions that undermine men's health after 50. The ones that make supplements work against each other instead of together. If this video resonated with you, that one will too. Subscribe so you don't miss it. This is Dr. Steven. Take care of yourself. The full picture is always worth understanding.